things I found to do. And one of the first things I found this is, and I just put this real hastily together. Here are some of the things I found to do and have done. Now, these are not things that I thought about doing. These are things I've actually done, since I came on the program. Repairing old radios and TVs, camping, hiking, fishing, photography, taking and developing, showing slides. Showing slides isn't too cool. I mean, if you want friends, it has a way of running people off. Aquariums, fresh and salt water. Raising hamsters. This is a real exciting pastime. I had this hamster. I guess he had a resentment at me. He used to bite me every time I tried to get in his cage. Fortunately, and the son has lived 2 years too. Have you ever had a hamster? You know what I'm talking about. I had a small apartment at the time, and all night they run around on this fucking wheel. It's like a junkie, thinking about a fix. I was kind of a nature freak, and I collected specimens like snakes, lizards, spiders, scorpions, stuff like that. In the early days, as sort of a hangover the beatnik era, we used to read poetry. It used to be cool to get people together and read poetry out loud and stuff like that. Then I found I could go back to school, and I went to school from 1957 till 1972, off and on. I became kind of a professional, semi-professional student. Professional is somebody that takes something really seriously and really dedicated at it. I just, I went down. I tried. But I did. One of the things that when you're in the joint and you want a parole plan, and I wanted to go out of school. I wanted to get out of the joint and go to school. It was part of my parole plan. And I thought, I'd like to get a degree, and I was kind of interested in science and stuff, but it just seemed kind of impossible because I dropped out of high school, I'd flunked out of classes, and I didn't think that, it was really possible. It was just kind of a thing, a thought that I might like to do. And, it's one of those dreams around the program that came true, I finally kept chipping away, and I dropped out, and I did this, and I did that. And I know a lot of you are going to go through this, so I just want to say, if you hang in there, even because you can see that obviously in my case there's been some brain damage. And it's possible, even with that brain damage, Cindy, to graduate. I got this A in the joint, but they give them away in there. Shit, all you have to do is show up for class. But I actually worked for this BA. I worked 15 years for the son of a bitch, and it was really hard. And when they talk in the program about the dark days of trudging along and doing duty, there were a lot of them. Going to school when you're tired and you've been working all night and having to take exams and going into school. Another thing, I used to drop out. When I was getting loaded, I used to drop out of things. I'd start a lot of things, but I never finished anything. And I learned in the program for the first time, I stuck in and hung in some classes and flunked them anyway, but I hung in there, man, through all the humiliation of walking into tests and failing them and stuff like that. And I think it helped me learn to study a little better, See, I always thought I was a genius and I didn't have to study. That's what I wanted to be, one of those guys that goes to college and doesn't study, just comes to him. It wasn't that way. I'm an ordinary dope fiend. I had to work my ass off, to get that degree. Here's another thing I learned how to do that, I never had a car when I was a kid, Most boys have cars. I did not have a car. From the start, all my money went for... I was the one that somebody else had the car and I bought the wine. You know what I mean? Or I bought the weed or whatever, I never had a car, and my father was not around, so I never learned how to repair cars or anything. And so when my car broke down in the early days of the program, and one of my sponsors said, well, you can fix that. I said, what? You're out of your mind, He said, no, it's easy. If you get in trouble, go ahead, take the radiator out and if you get in trouble, call me up and I'll come over and help you, Now, he didn't tell me. Now, this guy, I don't know if I should tell his name or not. Probably not. take his inventory here. But I found out later that this guy is very positive. He always encouraged me. He's one of my sponsors. And he always encouraged. He's always positive, man. Anything I want to do, he'd say, you can do it, you know. Yeah, go back to school. Yeah, you can do it. He was real positive, man. He was never negative. Everybody else would say, well, you know, I don't think, you know, maybe you ought to get a job mowing weeds or something. Something you're qualified for, washing dishes, you know. And he would say, you know, try it, you know. And he used to say weird things like, you know, you're pretty handy with your hands, you know. I used to repair the NA tape recorder. I'd learned that trade in the joint. And so I used to repair the NA, and then different people's sets, you know, that didn't have much money on the program at that time. And then, but he told me, you know, do my own car repairs. And I come to find out that he had finally admitted he was powerless over cars when in the middle of a Hollywood intersection he had thrown the jack through the window of his windshield, you know. This is what I mean about, you know, in the meeting, you know, we talk positive and, you know, and everything. This guy was, you know, he's always real positive and encouraging, and this is what he had done. You know, he said, well, he confessed this to me later, you know, later after I'd gotten into all this shit, taking out the radiator, you know, 2 days down there, you know. So anyway, but I got help with that, you know. I mean, I don't know, I haven't taken out any radiators lately, but, you know, I can change my oil, and I learned a few things. I had foster fathers and buddies around the program that taught me this shit, you know. And that's one of the nice things about it. Another thing, if you have time on your hands and you have a vehicle, is moving fellow NA members. Yeah. I guess you know something about that, huh? This is my address book here, completely worthless. Everybody in here has moved. The last 3 weeks. I had my phone disconnected this week, too. Now that can work into a full-time job, so, and it doesn't pay much, so maybe it's a thing you don't want to get into. I don't know. But, you know, we had some fun in some of those early moves. It was good. We were helping each other and, you know, move and breaking the outfit, you know, as they moved away, you know, break the needle in two dramatically, you know, throw away the old spoons, new beginning. Another one of the things that I got into was learning to play the guitar. I am now on my second guitar. I have 8 self-teaching records and several books. I still don't know one chord. You know? This fucking guitar, people from NA come in and other addicts, and they try to con me out of my guitar. Hey, you got a guitar, man. You play that thing? I said, well, no, but I'm going to get around to it someday. Why don't you give that to me, you know? Shit, you wouldn't play any more than I would, you know? And I paid $40 for it. You want one? Go pay $40 for it. Okay. At this time, you know, around about this time, I had gotten into the program, and I had put off doing an inventory. That's another thing you can do if you've got some spare time. Take an inventory, or take lots of inventories. You know? And but I didn't want to take an inventory, and I didn't take an inventory. And that may have had something to do, I think, in my case, with staying loaded for so many years, slipping so much. Because the reason I didn't want to take the inventory wasn't that I was really afraid of the inventory. It was because I figured once I took the inventory, I would have to take a 5th step, which is, for those of you who haven't been around long enough to find out, is where you go and admit all this stuff you've written down, this searching and fearless moral inventory, with somebody else. Well, I had a few things in my background that I didn't really want to talk to anybody about. I won't go into them at this time either. That reminds me, you know, when I was thinking about what I was going to say up here tonight, I remembered the San Francisco speaker who, you know, really, Frank, when Frank talked in San Francisco on Saturday night, you know, and he said, and he had, you know, expressed how he'd had a lot of fears about talking, and, you know, and he said, the thing that came to him was, all you have to do is tell the truth. And that hit me. Oh, yeah, all I have to do is tell the truth. And I said, nah, well, we'll think of something else. You know, when I first came around, you know, I wanted the truth. I wanted it all. I wanted, at that time analysis was popular. That was a popular psychology school. Now they got something else. I don't know. It was games people play for a while, and I don't know exactly what it is right now, Gestalt or something, But then it was psychoanalysis, and I read Freud and tried to I didn't go to an analyst. I couldn't afford one. But I tried to analyze, which they told all the old people that had experience in the program said, don't analyze, utilize, Just action is the magic word. Don't try to analyze, And I said, fuck that, And I promptly got me a modern library edition of Basic Writings of Sigmund Freud and started analyzing everybody else. It was kind of fun. Interpreting their dreams, people kind of. And if you don't like somebody, you can put a real nasty, and they don't know, you can put a real nasty interpretation to their dreams, and stuff like that. I had a lot of fun with that, but I didn't get any help from it. I started having a bunch of weird nightmares, man, and had to give it up. So anyway, I didn't want to take a fourth step, but I couldn't go on analysis, so I put it off for a long time, and I couldn't stay clean, and I finally, like the way I've done most things in this program, as a last act of desperation, sat down and took a day when I wouldn't read poetry or take pictures or any of these other things, go camping or hiking that I could find to do rather than take an inventory. I would sit down in my garage with my piece of paper and my pencil, and I would take an inventory, and I finally did. And the weird thing is, and I know some of you have heard me say this in meetings, it's another one of those small miracles to me, that's kind of opened my mind up towards some areas, I no sooner had that inventory taken, I went to a meeting, and there was a guy there. I talked to him. We went and had coffee after the meeting, and it was a guy who was a lot like me. We got to talking and rapping about this and that. I said, here's a guy I could take a fifth step with. Far out. And I did. And I'd like to say that I went home and had an overwhelming, like in the big book, experience with God and didn't use anything ever after that, but it's not really true. I did have one slip after that, after about 6 months, but that lasted one day. But basically, that was kind of a turning point for me. And I highly recommend fourth and fifth steps, especially if you don't want to take them, Because it's the things you don't want to do on this program that are the things that are going to help you the most. This same guy that I took my fifth step was into growing plants, and he got me into growing plants. Now, I had some previous experience with growing plants. One point, I had 135 plants growing in my backyard, and I lived next door to a policeman, Wasn't too smart. Later on, I found out the guy got busted for, ripping off things. So it would have probably been, he probably would have been high with me if I'd have known. But I was just a kid and I didn't know anything like that. But this guy got me into growing plants, man. I've got, plants are very demanding. You got to water them and feed them or they die. And there's something to be learned there, I guess. But I can't go away hardly now. I used to like to travel, and now, I go away and I got attached to this and that plant, and I got to water them or get somebody to water them. And, it's a lot of responsibility, man. So I don't really recommend that too much. Another thing that's interesting, like me, I got a lot of shitty jobs my first few years. Here are some of the jobs that I had my first few years on the program. I was the head dishwasher at the Glendale Sanitarium. I worked for Burbank Nursery as a common laborer, digging up lawns with big heavy implements in the hot San Fernando Valley sun. And this is the source of some of my resentment, because I really have had a lot of resentment about my work, because I always felt I was qualified for much better things, and I kept getting these jobs that paid $1.35 an hour and were really hard to work, and there wasn't much job satisfaction, and I saw, later I saw people come in the program. I don't think I want that job. Does it pay $7 an hour? Fuck it. And I went through years, man, out there breaking my ass, and I see these newcomers come on and they won't take a job if they don't pay $8 an hour. Fuck. That's been a source of resentment for me. It's confession. So, I fell into a trap a lot of us have fallen into, and I know that some of you will recognize this one. Become a drug alcohol counselor. Aha. Yes. Well, the first job I got was really exciting, some friends had went to San Francisco and got involved with a program with the University of California. And I, at the time, was selling for a brush in L.A. It wasn't that I was a bad salesman, but they always give me those neighborhoods, I mean, I grew up in them neighborhoods, man. I don't want to take them people's money, man. You know what I mean? I know the old man's spending the goddamn money on booze and dope anyway, and I'm going to come in and take what little they got left for some furniture polish or something, $8 hairbrushes, So naturally, when I got this counseling job, it sounded really, moved to San Francisco, the most romantic town in the world, and it sounded good, and I just flunked out of college that semester, and I was kind of at ends, and didn't know if I wanted to go back. So I went up to become a drug alcohol counselor. And it was pretty exciting, it was pretty interesting, going around, running around, talking to PT groups. I had a year at that time. That was a lot of clean time at that time, 1 year. Was a lot of clean time. I mean, in NA, naturally AA, 25 years and stuff, but NA was a lot of clean time. And my sponsor was up there. And he had a slip, and he had gotten up there, and so when he vacated the job because he was asked to use, because he was using on the job with the people he's supposed to be helping, he suggested me or something. So I went up there and became part of that. And at the end of it, when it ended, it only lasted about 6 months, I said, I'm never going to go do drug alcohol counseling again. I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to get mixed up with a crazy bunch of goddamn addicts again. They're my people, but, they're as crazy as I am. They're as sick as I am. And I said, I will not. And anyway, I had a hard time separating my NA program from the drug counseling program. I couldn't really separate them because I hadn't gotten clean in this program that we were making up. I got clean in NA. I got clean through working the 12 steps. We paraphrased the 12 steps and, we had them in this program and stuff. But I couldn't really separate them out. And then I said, well, what 12-step work am I doing? Or is this all for pay? And then the addicts, too, if you're getting paid to do 12-step work, then it no longer becomes a case of you will do, this is the way we did it and we suggest you do it. It becomes a case of, I'm in this program and you are getting paid to help me and this is how you're going to help me, asshole. I need this job that pays this much and this much and all that stuff. And I had a hard time with that. So I swore I would never get involved when I left. And I went back to, I think it was carrying concrete stairs, setting them in place and chipping the concrete off the steel and stuff like that. And it seemed easier. And didn't pay quite as good. But then, another thing that I found to do was make a list of all the persons I'd harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. And I made this list. It was easier after taking a fourth step. And the person that I found that I'd harmed the most while I was using was me. And next to that was the people that I loved, that were close to me. It's funny how we hurt the people closest to us the worst. I guess they're in the most vulnerable position. But part of my thing was making amends, and it was, the people that I hurt the most were my family, and I had to go to them and make amends, and it helped, and I found that I even had to make amends to my father, whom I dearly hated, because I held him responsible for my using and drinking, because he was an alcoholic and he didn't provide blah, blah, blah. But I went and made amends to him, and it really helped. This list: learn trade, see, I was a radio repairman, a salesman, a gardener, a dishwasher, drug counselor, job developer, desk clerk, night auditor, alcohol counselor, painter, carpet layer, and drug counselor. I went back to being a drug counselor a couple of times, and neither time did it work out quite right. So I finally given it up for good, I hope. And I admire those people who can hang in there and keep their NA program separate from, the drug thing, and can work with addicts in drug programs, and can put up with the federal government and the state and local authorities and things that they lay on you, and staff meetings. I really admire you for that. I couldn't handle it. As some of you from the San Jose area I left my last one in the middle of a staff meeting and have not been back to any drug counseling job since then. Okay, get a dog and a cat. A dog and a cat. Dogs are good therapy. They're your friend. When everybody else in the program puts you down and you can't get along with your old lady, the dog is there. You can go in and kick the motherfucker in the mouth, Good therapy. I say this half joking. I had a good dog for 12 years. He really did. He forced me into a certain amount of regularity, and he was always there, And even if I did kick him, he'd come back and wag his tail, and he forced me into taking walks. I had to walk him, so it was either that or clean up all the shit in the yard. You know what I mean? So I got into walking this dog, and then got into exercise, and it was really good, and really come to appreciate this dog more than a lot of people that I've known. I quit smoking in San Francisco, and I got very nervous. And I still don't smoke, but I had a really hard time with it. I think I had a harder time quitting smoking than I did drugs or alcohol. And I started getting an ulcer, and I couldn't concentrate. I was going to school at the time, and I couldn't concentrate. And so I took up jogging. And jogging really, helped me out, And I think, which leads me to a point, one of the things that I believe is that this program has different aspects. The medical profession puts a lot of emphasis on the physical part of addiction, which we kind of neglect and overrule, and say that's not that important, because I kicked a lot of habits physically and it wasn't shit to it. You just sit down and grit your teeth, or whatever, however you want to do it, take some Dolafine or whatever, And it ain't, the physical part ain't that bad, but it's the mental part and the spiritual sickness and stuff, and so it put a lot of emphasis on that. So, but I really believe that a lot, sitting around meetings, and I've sat around a lot of meetings where people say, I can't sleep, I stopped using it, I can't sleep, And if you talk to them, you find out they haven't done anything. I can't sleep either. If I sit on my ass for 16 hours meditating, I can't sleep either. I get very nervous and depressed, and generally start getting neurotic. I don't think human beings were meant to sit on their ass like that, And so I think there is, if we have a physical dimension, and I think that we're kind of tend to hyperactivity anyway, some of us, and and jogging, there's different ways of doing it, but jogging helped me, helped relax me. I started sleeping good. I stopped getting so nervous about the smoking and everything, and so that's one of the things that I've stayed with, And then I'm getting close to the end of this list. Bow hunting. Something I got into. I wanted to do was get a bow and arrow, because felons can't have guns. There's some laws that felons aren't supposed to carry guns, and my brother-in-law down here in Oklahoma wants to go hunting, and I never hunted before. And partly because I didn't want to go get involved with guns, Besides that, my old lady's crazy. You know what I mean? She might, if that gun was there, she imagines a lot of things, especially like when I come to conventions like this, I mean, to her right now, I'm not up here at a podium speaking to, I'm probably up there in a hotel room with some girl, And when I get home, if there was a gun in there, her imagination might, she might get, and she knows it, she said, don't get a gun. So anyway, I get a little violent sometimes too still. I haven't hit her in a long time. Probably ought to, but she's pretty good. She's pretty good. She's been a lot of help. But anyway, I got into this bow hunting, man, and it's really, and the program has turned my luck around, man. I always started to do things, and I mean, you've heard of beginner's luck. I never had any. I had beginner's bad luck. I never followed through with anything because every time I tried to, I was a klutz and everything went wrong and it didn't work out. I went out last year. I went to a garage sale. I bought me a second-hand bow for $20 with the hunting arrows and the whole goddamn thing. And the second weekend out, I actually shot and killed a deer. Now, this may not mean anything to some of you, but, to me it's kind of a sign, that my luck's turned around, man. I mean, I can get lucky. I can do something that, so I know people who have been hunting deer for 10 years and never seen one, And I attribute this, there must be something to do with the program, man, because only the things that have come from the program and are good things that have happened to me that have turned my luck around, because I was a loser, man. I couldn't finish anything. I couldn't finish school. I started class, I get home with the books and fix and, or I'd get out on a drunk. I never finished anything. And I've been able, staying clean and sober, putting that first, staying clean and sober first, I've been able to accomplish quite a few things, including finishing school and even bow hunting. And the last thing, non-program thing on here was that last year I started training to run a marathon, which I didn't really get, I didn't make it yet, but it's kind of insane. I think marathon running, a lot of dope fiends really might go for it because there's a lot of pain involved. And I know a lot of you dig that pain, I know you do. And you got to get out there and it hurts. And it's like, if you lay off 2 days, you go into withdrawals and has a lot of things. So that is the end of my list. And I know you all want to get out and dance. I also work step 11, 10, 11, and 12. I take daily inventories. From time to time, I get screwed up. Usually when I'm at the end of the line, when I'm ready to leave town, commit suicide, I don't think of using anymore. I think that's right to have the guys the guys with the most time sit down and the guys with the least time stand up, because, man, that first year was the hardest. And for those of you just starting out in this program, staying clean, I want to, assure you, this is something that you will be assured again, but I want to assure you that it gets easier. That if you work these steps, you can lose the obsession to use drugs. And so, have a little faith. I didn't have much, but I saw it working in other people, and that gave me some faith.
Please turn your tape. Do not rewind. Please turn your tape at this time and continue on side 2.
Screwed up as I was, and it wasn't like it was coming from relatives, friends, counselors. These were people I could tell they were as sick as I was, maybe some of them sicker, and they were staying clean and sober on this program. So I couldn't refute that evidence that you can stay clean and sober. And when I tried to work these steps, I found they worked. They will keep you clean and sober. They will open up just an incredible. If anybody had told me 20 years ago that I'd be in Wichita, Kansas tonight, I don't think I'd have believed him, If anybody told me I'd have 16 years clean, I certainly wouldn't have believed him. And any of these other, things. I've been married, I had my 20th wedding anniversary this year, I never would have believed that would be possible, But I found it through the program and through the steps. All kinds of things are possible. And I guess anything is possible, if you really believe it. My faith is a little weak, so You know, I'm a little weak at times, but prayer and meditation I got onto on a vacation when I had a slip because I wasn't going to meetings. And one of the people, Sylvia, came to this meeting with this little black book, Day at a Time. And I looked at it, and it looked like a New Testament, man. And I mean, you know, she said, hey, got this book. Man, get that book out of here, you know. God damn, oh God, Sylvia's got religion, man. Jesus Christ, I know she's in bad shape, but religion, you know. And she said, oh yeah, it's a good book, got a lot of good thoughts in it. And I think she gave me that book, foisted it on me somehow. And I didn't pay much attention to it. But I had to slip. I went on this vacation. I wasn't getting any meetings, and I had to slip. And I said, you know, I need a daily spiritual program. I need to get up in the morning and meditate and get my head in the right place right away, because I may be loaded before breakfast if I don't, you know. And that's just, you know, that's the way it was, because I did. I got loaded before breakfast on my last slip. You know, I got in the car on the way to work, and my old lady said something I didn't like, and I slapped her. And I got into a big yoke trip, and I knew she had these pills in her purse, and I reached down and grabbed the pills and took them. And that was how my last slip started out. You know, and I ended up the next day, but I had to get into this 11th step, praying for knowledge of God's will for us and the power to carry that out. You know, the way I've came to this program and the steps is not, you know, through any really good feeling. You know, it's just desperation, man. Just desperation all the way. Fought it just about all the way. And lastly, the 12th step has, you know, like they say, it keeps you clean when nothing else. It works when nothing else does, man. I mean, there's nothing really that will ensure your sobriety more, I think, than going to another addict that's sick and trying to explain the program to him and how it works for you. You know, I mean, that's why, you know, we're so grateful for the newcomers. Because if there wasn't anybody, you know, I mean, old timers, we get tired of hearing each other. You know, you sit around in the same meetings 5-6 years. Christ, you've heard your stories 3,000 times, you know. But a newcomer comes in and, you know, everybody kind of perks up and gets on point and starts remembering what it was like and starts explaining to that newcomer, you know, what the positive things about the program. And it works, man. It reminds me, hey, the program works. And the thing of, you know, and I don't know, man. I've talked to a lot of newcomers over the years, and there aren't very many of them here. But there are a few, and every time I go to a convention, I always see a few, you know. And well, those of you who've been around, you know, and those that haven't, you will find out, man, that is a hell of a feeling to feel this feeling that you've had some part in this person's recovery and carrying the message. You know, you were there. And one of the things I like best about the program is that everybody's needed, man. Everybody has something to do here, you know. There's a lot of things you can do. I mean, you know, there's never enough help. Certain people are always overloaded with work. And certain other people ought to do more work. And sometimes the certain people that are overloaded ought to put it on them, you know, and stop bitching about it. But you know about that. There's you know, that's one of the things that appealed to me about NA is there's something important to do with my life, man. Because I looked at my life in that joint 20 years ago, and I'm 56, I guess it was, 24 years ago. And I felt like you are a worthless, no good bag of scum. You aren't good for shit. You know, I was at that point we talk about the first step. You haven't did anything constructive. You haven't thought about anybody but yourself for the last 19 years. And when they introduced me to the program, and I began to see that here was a way in which I might be used to do something constructive and something very important. You know, this program lends a lot of importance to your life, man. You know, and there's been a lot of times when I thought of killing myself. When I stopped thinking of getting loaded, I started thinking about killing myself. when I would get into depressions and shit. And having some newcomers around, or this was the thing. Well, I can still do this with my life. I can still carry the message to the addict that still suffers, even if the job goes, even if my old lady and I have a falling out, even if I become permanently unemployable because I can't get anywhere on time, even if I am an asshole. There's something important to do with the rest of my life. Carry the message to the addict that still suffers, man. So many people go through life. We're very fortunate. I don't know why we're so fortunate. Because we're a bunch of assholes. Why we're so fortunate after having screwed up all this time and been such jerks and selfish and, inconsiderate and not caring about anybody else and just interested in getting loaded and having a party, that we get this, But it is a beautiful thing to have, and it certainly, once you get hip to it, it can see you through some bad spots, And if there's one thing, I've talked negative about a lot of the negative aspects about what I've seen, like meetings that don't get opened up and people running off with the treasury and all this stuff, But, I've been around long enough to see this happen, and to see it grow from 5 people loaded, 1 person clean, one group in L.A., to a national group, fellowship, spiritual fellowship, and to see the people grow, see some of the people grow, and a lot of them that I've seen come on have outgrown me, I feel, spiritually and in other ways, but, it's just a really a good thing to see this happen. And I had one thing which I left out here, and I'm not even going to mention it. I had down here, sex, alone or in the company of others. But I'm not, that's really kind of anticlimactic. Or wait a minute, is that the right word? Oh, well. All right, I want to thank Ron, Dennis, Sherry, Cindy, Julie, and everybody for inviting me up. I must confess, I've been injured in the past. Last meeting, San Francisco meeting, I was asked to speak, and I spent the same amount of time getting a talk together. It was on the history of NA, and I had 5 pages, and I really thought about it. And a bunch of my old-time friends, they scheduled me for last. And we got down to it, and I had 5 minutes, man. And I had this whole page. I said, well, and this is the truth, man. God has given me an exercise in humility, So anyway, it's really, I consider it a great honor to be, your Saturday night speaker. And I'm sorry I couldn't do any better, but I'm just an ordinary dope fiend. There's nothing extraordinary about me at all. I'm just an ordinary dope fiend. And that means that it's possible for any of you other ordinary dope fiends sitting out there, if you hang in and work the steps, keep coming to meetings, get phone numbers, get one or preferably more sponsors. Sponsors sometimes get loaded too. If you keep doing those things, if you do those little simple suggested things, you too can be the Saturday night speaker and go through this hell that I went through this summer. Thank you all.
Wasn't that great? Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Just a few minutes of, or hopefully less of, last-minute details. Have some announcements here. The appeals for the World Service Office, they need money. Hey, get it together, take it back to your group and see what you can come up with. The 3rd annual Northern California Convention of NA is going to be February 20th through the 22nd in San Jose.
All right.
And the 2nd East Coast Convention of NA is going to be in the Philly area at the Trenton State College, the 26th to the 28th of June. And Registration for the 11th in South Florida will begin tomorrow. The youngest person at each table, the person with the least amount of time at each table, the centerpiece is yours to take with you. Okay? The band is going to start shortly after here, and we get a boogie till 2:30. So be prepared, all right? Anything else? Okay, Ron's got one quick one.
All right, the hotel would like to shut off the south ballroom at this time so they can pull the doors and set up for the meeting in the morning. Also, they would like to come in and finish cleaning up the tables, so I want everybody to go out of the meeting for about 15 minutes so that this door can be pulled, the band can have a sound check, then get cleaned up, and then we'll let... Wait a minute, don't leave yet. I'm sorry, I just... We got to close the meeting, but I was just going to make this announcement before. They want everybody out for about 15 minutes, then we'll let everybody back in.
Okay, let's get a circle like we did last night and do the Lord's Prayer. And is Larry from Virginia here? Larry, I want you to start us, okay?